Hey YouTube, RicoKnows here. Going to talk to you guys about the NFL draft. If you weren't aware, I break down every single draft class every single year, and I put them on TikTok and I put them on YouTube. So in this particular case, if you go to the homepage, click on the playlist tab, you'll see it right there. 2025 NFL Draft Reviews and Assessments. I'm breaking down every single class, and I'm going alphabetical by city. This is only the second video I'm making. I already did the Arizona Cardinals. Now we're on the Atlanta Falcons here. And if you look, the Atlanta Falcons only had 5 draft picks. I have a love-hate relationship with this particular draft class. I know a lot of Falcons are excited about this draft class, or at least Falcon fans. I'll tell you why I'm excited and why I'm not, kind of inverse or whatever. But let me take you guys back 1 year. So last year, when the Falcons were drafting, I believe it was 7th or 8th overall, they had the option to go and get the best defender in the draft. They could have taken anyone because no defenders had been drafted up until that point. They were signing Kirk Cousins, so it made sense. Go get the best defender possible. Maybe a kid from Alabama, maybe another superstar from here, whatever it is. And instead, they drafted Michael Penix Jr. And I'm not here to say it was a bad draft pick or not or whatever, but it just didn't align with what you were doing as a team. Now, they were giving each other high fives. They were all about it, and they made their pick. And then they tried to recover the rest of the draft, and they didn't quite recover the same. If you watch their defense last year, it was slow. There wasn't enough depth. They lacked star power, if you will, on the defensive side of the ball. So here we are. They go into this draft, and you can see it here. ESPN said they needed to address the edge, defensive tackles, center, safety, and wide receiver. They said bump that. We're only going to address 2 positions, essentially. Okay, essentially. So let's talk about it. They knew they were picking 15th in this draft, and they took Jaylen Walker at 15. Now, some of you guys are pretty excited about Jaylen Walker being there at 15. If you look at the calculator, if you look at ESPN, they talk about it. There was a 1% chance that Jaylen Walker would still be on the board at 15. So when they were evaluating players, they didn't really think Jaylen Walker would be there. So they were ecstatic he was there, and they drafted him. He's a local kid, and they thought he was going to go higher. Now, I'm going to tell you guys the truth. When I did my draft evaluations, if you want to see my rankings, I do podcasts on YouTube. There's on the live tab. Just go to the homepage, click live tab. You can see the edge and the linebacker podcast. And when you see the linebacker podcast, I talk very directly about Jaylen Walker's assessment as the number 1 linebacker in this draft. I disagreed with it completely. I watched the tape. This kid Carson here was way better on tape. So where did we get this Jaylen Walker number 1 ranking? Why does everybody have Jaylen Walker number 1? Well, it's because when you read pre-draft publications, whether that be charts or mock drafts or anything, when you read that stuff, they're doing their best to somewhat project the NFL draft. They're doing their best to get it right in draft position. This is why they create things like way too early 2026 mock draft. Or they'll go out and they'll talk to an NFL team and they'll find out this particular NFL team really likes a player. Therefore, they will rank the player accordingly. Let me give you an example. Dan Morgan, on the staff with the Carolina Panthers, he is on record for saying, we love Jaylen Walker. Jaylen Walker's our guy. The minute Dan Morgan said that, everybody moved Jaylen Walker into the top 10 prospects because they know the 8th pick in the draft is going to take him. So now we got to pretend like we knew this guy was going to be elite. So we moved him into the top 10 prospects in the draft. He's one of the top 10 players. There's no way he's dropping out of the top 10. All the sports books follow suit. You can start betting on whether or not Jaylen Walker is going to be drafted at number 8 or otherwise. And if you looked at the odds, it was crazy. It was like minus 2,000. He's getting drafted 8th overall. Why? Because we heard from the front office of the Carolina Panthers, they love this guy. No one else felt that way about him. No one else agreed with it. And when I watched the tape, I didn't agree with it. So I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I said, yo, we're not in Jamestown. I'm not doing this. I'm not believing this hype. This is a man with 1 year of production. This is a guy who didn't impress me. He's a tweener. You can't be 6'1", 240 and an edge rusher in the NFL. You can be a linebacker who they bring down to the line of scrimmage, and you can go get after that quarterback on 1st and 2nd down. I get it. But it's not ideal. It's not prototypical, stereotypical. It's none of those things. It's going to be an overachieving linebacker who's effective in pass rushing, which is fine. You might even have case studies for it. You might have previous players that have done this before for the staff, and I know this, okay? So some of you guys are going to quote some shit and come back to me and be like, Rico, I saw this and I read it. Listen to me. I watched the tape. This is not the number 1 linebacker in the draft. But if an NFL team said they're going to take him at 8, and they lied to you and they got you believing all that, the smoke and mirrors, here we are. Colston Loveland went before this guy. 2 tight ends went before this guy. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is once the Panthers didn't draft him, it was about to be a monumental free fall. No, you don't got to trade up to get him or anything. No one wants him in the top 10, top 15, except for the Falcons. When they saw him still on the board, they're believing the fool's gold. Oh, my God, this is a top 10 pick, and he fell to us. This is great value. Straight up Walmart. And I'm not there. Personally, I'm not there. More power to them. They're excited for getting a guy locally. I'm sure they watched him a ton of times with their local scouts and whatnot. But this is not the guy for me. Now, in this process, you had to believe that they thought James Pierce Jr. would still be on the board at 15. Listen to me, at 15. So when they were picking and making their moves, they said, yo, we're probably going to take James Pierce Jr. at 15. Then their pick comes up at 15, and they don't have to take him. They go, there's Jaylen Walker, we'll take him. Now they're letting the draft occur. And we're getting towards the back of the first round, and they can't believe their eyes. The guy that they wanted at 15 is still on the board. And I'll tell you why he's still on the board. This man has significant red flags. Some of you guys don't care about red flags. But I'm telling you right now, as an employer, as somebody who employs people in this world, I'm not hiring you if you have red flags. The NFL is a job, and we're hiring you, and we're investing in you. And teams decided he's not worth that fifth-year option. Remember, first-round draft picks, their contracts are guaranteed. They have a fifth-year option, which means they get paid a significantly amount of more money. All right, a sum of more money in that 5th year. And it's one of those cases where is it warranted for James Pierce Jr.? Now, if you remember the too early for 2025 NFL draft charts, the mock drafts, James Pierce Jr. was the number 1 player in the whole draft. 24/7 Sports and On3 try to tell me he's the number 1 player in the world. And I never believed that hype for 1 second. Go watch all the charts. Go to Twitter, search for them. I never bought into that nonsense for 1 second. And then he goes out and has a very substandard year. And when I say substandard by his standards. It wasn't the number 1 player. The production wasn't there. So we have a traditional pass rusher. Now, I like the pause. I'm not going to say it all at once, but his size is nice. His size is prototypical. His size is ideal for an edge rusher. So I get the appeal. But in my pre-draft analysis and preparation, I talk to players. I talk to teammates. I talk to ex-teammates, players from the transfer portal. I talk to coaches. I talk to scouts. And when I concatenate all the data and all the information, what got back to me? Well, Rico, he has a personal handler. Rico, he got in a fight with the strength and conditioning coach. Whether these are true or rumors, I'll never know. But I'll tell you this. One bona fide fact is he was arrested. He was arrested for driving without a license and speeding and all this stuff. They dropped the charges. He worked his way through it. But I don't like players that get arrested. I don't like them in the first round. Find me another prospect that's not getting arrested. That's all I'm saying. You need to invest in players, significant amount of money, 5 years and millions of dollars. Give me a player with no red flags. That's all. That's how I get down. Rico, you're right. No, I'm not right. I'm advocating for a different player. Be as black as night. I don't care. Give me something else. Don't give me a criminal. Don't give me a problem. Don't give me a cancer in the locker room. And I read the reports. One of the GM for the Falcons said, we spent a lot of time with JPJ making sure he's the guy for us. We spent a lot of time with him making sure he's the guy for us. And we believe in our culture. We believe in our surroundings to help get him on the right path. What the fuck? The audacity of NFL coaches to think you can fix someone or fix a problem. They do it all the time. One guy will get cut, kicked out of a team here, and then they'll sign him. Oh, he'll be good for us. We'll make it work. No, you won't. Oh, don't worry, Rico. Coach has got it figured out. You know, it's going to be a no-nonsense. It's going to be zero tolerance. So even if he messes up, they're going to give him the boot. Like, shut up. You sound so ridiculous. You ever been on a dating app trying to date a girl? Let me tell you, when you meet a girl and you go on a first date and you realize you're going to have to spend a significant amount of time with her before deciding whether or not she's a keeper, it's probably a bad first date. You probably got a bad first impression, and you're dealing with riffraff. It's not going to get any better. Trust me, toxic girlfriends make toxic wives. Toxic college players make toxic professionals. Now, I hope James Pierce Jr. is all they ever dreamed of. And he better be, because these guys traded back into the first round to get him. And I think it's a terrible draft pick. I think the premise that you traded back into the first round, after watching him drop, you decided we're going to trade back in and get him. Sometimes you got to let other teams make the mistake. You don't have to be the one to make it. Other teams can make the mistake. When I did my pre-draft rankings, James Pierce Jr. was one of the most highly rated dudes out there. Look where I put him. I put him 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I very clearly said in the podcast, undraftable. Can't draft this guy. Him or Mike Green. I'll put him here, but I wouldn't draft these dudes. I like some of these other guys more than him. I'm not doing it. Neither one of these guys. Red flags for sure. Can they play football? Sure they can. But I'm not investing millions in them. You don't get to wear my jersey, my brand, if I'm the team owner. You don't represent me like that. You guys ever been around a hoe? You ever been around a trick, bro? I'm being serious. Y'all ever been around a trick? You can't give her your last name. You can't let her walk around with your jersey on. She'll embarrass you when you're not around. That's one of the ways you find a keeper. Is you find a girl who represents you when you're not in the room. You find somebody who carries themselves in a respectful manner when you're not around. That's like one of the greatest traits of all time. But man, when you're a teenager and you see a baddie with a fatty, what do? Oh, I don't care, man. I'm with her. We're on the dance floor. What do you know? You're on the dance floor. Another dude's grabbing her at the bar while you're looking the other way trying to get her a lemon drop. I'm that other guy. I pull so many girls standing next to a dude. He's holding her hand, buying her drinks. I'm pulling her by the end of the night. What you gonna do? Chris Brown talked about it forever. Go pick any song you want. My point I'm trying to make is, if you can't find a keeper in the first round, don't pull the trigger. Don't do it. And I feel like they pay too much. Now, the Falcons are going to tell you, we only traded away our first-round pick from 2026 to get the 2025 guy. So we're using our first-round pick this year. No. You also gave up a 7. You also had to move up twice in the third, or move up in the third to get your safety, which is an incredible pick. But you ran out of picks in a hurry, and you didn't address all your team needs. Right? ESPN came out and said you had team needs. You didn't address all your team needs. You just got 2 edge rushers, and that's because you over-evaluated edge rushers. You knew you were going to take edge rushers, so you sat down and you broke them all down. And then when your big board got out there, you said, oh, these guys are the best available players because of how you valued edge rushers pre-draft. Second year in a row, I think the Falcons front office is really struggling to understand how to draft in the NFL. Seriously. That's how I feel about it. They're struggling on how to value certain players in the NFL. They're hoping they hit it right. But that pick last year for Penix was just out of place and obtuse. And here, trading back into the first round to take James Pierce Jr., who was dropping catastrophically because nobody wanted to take this cancerous type person, this red flag-oriented person in the first round, and you go and you make a foolish decision and trade back into the first round and give up a ton to get there. That's absurd to me. Okay, now, second day of the draft, they get really patient, and they get the move of all moves. They move up about 5 spots. They knew they had to move ahead of the 49ers. Shout out to 49ers. They watch all the content. They drafted every guy I value. They knew they had to move ahead of the 49ers and the Raiders to get Xavier Watts. Now, Xavier Watts falling to the 3rd round is insane. If you're watching the live draft, I couldn't believe that Jonas Sanker had fallen that far. Shout out to the Virginia safety. And then Xavier Watts falls this far. Both of those young men are exceptional players. I've been talking about them for years. And Xavier Watts is a bona fide starter. Like James Pierce Jr., to me, he's in the rotation. He's not a starter. He's in the rotation. Xavier Watts on the field every single play for you. There's nothing wrong with this guy. It's not Will Johnson taking a shot in the dark. No. This is a bona fide starter. Stud. And you could just sit back and wait and only move up about 5 spots. I give this pick, and I don't give grades or anything. I'm not a teacher, right? Unless this is an A+. All you fucking nerds just making up metrics. This is a great pick, though. A phenomenal pick. Shout out to them. And I think this is proof that patience is a virtue. Like, just sit back and wait. Let the players come to you. Great pick. Excuse me. Then the next pick in the 4th round. I have to imagine when the 4th round started, there's no way they thought Billy Bowman would be there on the board. I think they had the 15th, or no, there it is, the 16th pick in the 4th round. There's no way they thought Billy Bowman was going to fall that far. Now, I've been watching Billy Bowman since high school. I think he's an exceptional player. They started telling me stuff before the draft, like he's got small hands. Look at this. His hands are small. Shut up, bro. Shut up. Dude, when you watch him on tape, he is breaking on the ball before his teammates. And he's got other NFL teammates out there. He's breaking on the ball before his teammates. You know why you do that? You know how that happens? You study tape. So you know the play and the alignment and the down and distance and the hash mark. You know all of it pre-snap. And you know the tendency and the likelihood of this happening. It's a great feeling. When I watch the tape, I watch so much tape on these guys, I start to learn the opposition. I start to learn what they read. And as I'm watching, I go, oh, hell yeah, Billy Bowman's got this. And he makes plays like that. I think he projects, it says safety, he projects as a nickelback. He projects as a terrible band, as a nickelback. I think he can play the nickel there and eventually become a starter for the Falcons. And to get a guy of that caliber in the 4th round, pretty nuts, bro. So I really like that pick. Not as much as Xavier Watts, but it's still very, very good value at that moment. And then we go to the 7th round. You gave away all your picks. You overtraded and overvalued things. You couldn't address all your needs, so you go to the 7th round. You get Jack Nelson. Jack Nelson starting 4 years at Wisconsin. Don't get me twisted. I was about to say Nebraska. At Wisconsin. This is a young man that started at guard and then eventually moved to left tackle. No. They don't need a left tackle. He's been starting there, I think, 3 years at left tackle. But it's pretty neat to see a guy that was starting, and even though there was a coaching change at Wisconsin, he still impressed Luke Fickell and the boys, and they didn't replace him, and they let him start. At 6'7", 314, he's athletic and nimble enough, almost like a dancing bear, because you're a former guard, now you're playing tackle, you can handle those edge rushers. I think he's great depth, and they don't need him to start. They got a guy named Matthews at left tackle who's going to be the starter, obviously. So now you just got depth in the 7th round. And with only 5 draft picks, they're all going to make the final 53. I think they really are. So then they had to go and win, and we'll talk about it. People said, well, Rico, how'd they do in the 8th round? And if you don't know what the 8th round is nowadays, the 8th round is undrafted free agents. Well, undrafted free agents, they signed some players that I'm pretty excited about. Yes, they took a swing at Nick Nash. Okay. They already have Drake London, who's very Nick Nash-ish, but it's a poor man's Drake London. They have David Sills V. Shout out to him. They value some of these guys who are just kind of whatever. They don't move the meter for me. Some guys that I think move the meter for me when I look at the tape is a guy like Nick Kubitz here. They signed Nick Kubitz. He's a left inside linebacker, but he's a middle linebacker. Looks like a Viking on tape. Was the middle linebacker for North Dakota State. He has dealt with some injuries, so there's a problem there. But when he's healthy, Nick Kubitz can play football. I like that guy a lot. Okay, I like him a lot. My favorite safety in the draft was Malik Verdon out of Iowa State. He was literally my favorite. I'm not making this up. Like, I don't just say random stuff. I can show you. Pre-draft rankings, my favorite safety's up here. And my favorite safety was Malik Verdon. Did not get drafted. He's my favorite. That doesn't mean I think he's top 10. I'm not crazy. It's just the guy I enjoy. When I watch the tape, he's my favorite dude. I'm pulling for him. And they got him. Remember, I told you, J.J. Roberts is going to make it on the Buccaneers over Shiloh Sanders. Well, I got Malik Verdon making this team. I really hope he does. And if he doesn't, he's got to catch on the practice squad. But I want to see that guy make it in the NFL. So I'm pulling for Malik Verdon. That one's pretty exciting to me. And then everybody's talking about Kobe Bryant. Oh, my God, we got Kobe Bryant. I just told you, Billy Bowman projects as a nickelback. Kobe Bryant is not NFL caliber. I hope he makes it for all the fans' sake. But did they win in the offseason or anything like that? I think they just struggle with identifying and staying focused on what they need. Yes, you evaluated a ton of edge rushers. You didn't need to take 2 back-to-back. But this is all derived from your mistake last year when you didn't take the best defender in the draft, and you could have, and you should have. But instead, you wanted to take a backup quarterback, or your quarterback of the future, excuse me. So they always draft like they have this big grand scheme and plan. But what's the big grand scheme and plan? Because you're a GM, and you're giving away picks for the next year to get picks this year, and it's not players that are worthy of those picks. But that's my breakdown of the Falcons. I thought they did well in the 3rd and 4th round. I'm more excited about some of those picks with Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts. The first 2, I get it. You needed to find somebody. But for me, it's not the gold that you think it is. Like, maybe it is for you guys. It's just not for me. Remember, I evaluate every single draft pick every single year. I'm going to miss on some, and then some I'm going to knock it right out the park. And you'll be here 2 years later, and you'll go, oh, my God, Rico was so right about this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And I think this is one of those moments where I'm going to be right. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Peace, y'all.